And now it's time for overtime. We're going to break it down a little bit. Mark's signing off, I think. Mark, you staying on or going on?
I'll hang until somebody says something I don't like, and then I'll exit dramatically.
Damn, that tight end was the first wasted pick. No, I'm just kidding.
That means John's not allowed to talk. That's what that
means. Actually, I like our draft quite a bit. So for the new listeners or people, this is kind of our new first episode of Overtime. This is when, after we do the podcast, we usually spend about a half an hour talking about things that are a little bit more involved than the actual podcast, and we kind of figured we'd record it.
Did you do a screen capture?
I did.
Can you share that?
I can.
Outstanding. Yeah, man.
Championship.
I think legitimately there's 4 starting players on this team on that draft.
There's 2 picks I really, I mean, I like a lot, the whole thing, but there's 2 picks I really, really like. First, Jamin Davis in the first round. That might be a little bit of a reach from some analysts out there, but in the long run, I really don't think it's going to be. I think he's going to be a stud in this league for a long time. And at age 2, I really like Walker Little. I think we got amazing value there. I know that a lot of analysts put him right now in the 4th, 5th, or even 6th round. That's crazy. That's honestly, that should be a crime. Because I think Walker Little is going to man, wherever he ends up, I think he's going to man the left side for 12 to 15 years.
I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, me and you both, buddy.
So the big controversy would be if Mac Jones was sitting there. I don't know how likely that is. Who knows? But I don't think it's very likely. But if for some crazy reason he was sitting there, I think there's probably a contingent of fans that would have a major problem with passing him up just because it's a quarterback. Some teams have him highly rated. So I think that would be maybe controversial, but I just, like I said in the first pod, I have too many questions about him to risk blowing another 1st round pick on a quarterback who doesn't have the it factor. And I'm just not convinced that he does.
I know we ruled out the idea of trades for this just to keep it a little bit more simple, but I'm going to throw it out there now. If Mac Jones is still around at 19, I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised at all to see them trade that pick, drop back 3, 4, 5, 6 slots. There's
Pittsburgh,
like 12 guys
Tampa.
that are good value at 19, right? There's this plateau of players that are all really solid and would be decent picks at 19. So I think they try and pick up a couple extra picks, maybe.
Yeah.
You could trade 19 to Tampa and get 32. And according to these rankings, you probably still end up with Davis.
The other thing is, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, it's fine. You can go.
Paul, I'll say this, and I don't know if I said this in other podcasts. In my opinion, and I don't see it happening, but if Lance, Fields, or Mac Jones is available at 19, I say trade the pick.
I'm with you. If a quarterback's there at 19, the one thing that I always try to tell myself is you have to have your house in order up front on that offensive line before you insert that quarterback if you want to set them up for success. And I'm not quite sure we're there yet. I don't think we have our house totally in order on the offensive line yet. And I just don't think it's a good idea to risk throwing a quarterback into the fire either this year or next year.
Especially a developmental quarterback, which is why I've been against Lance from the beginning. If I'm going to spend the time in the draft and the assets on a developmental quarterback, I'm not doing it in the 1st round. Because then you've passed on so much other talent. You can develop a 3rd round player and get 2 starters ahead of him. You take a guy at 19 and then your draft doesn't fall the right way. Now you've got a quarterback on the shelf for a season and you're reaching or hoping that the right guy's available at 51.
I know this is a little radical, and I'm not saying it's a good strategy, but I'm old school and I used to love what Bobby Beathard used to do. From 69 to 90, he traded all of his 1st round picks and got more picks. We didn't have a 1st round pick except for one year, and we screwed that up. But in 85, we traded and got this one guy that ended up never playing for us. But my point is those were our heydays. We lost 2 Super Bowls and we were in 2 others and won 2 others. So all of those years that we traded away our first round draft picks. So I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, but too much value goes into it, man. And the expectations are way too high. We've failed so often at quarterback. I'm not saying that lately we've done very well with our defensive ends and everything, but now we just got to pay them. Nice thing about trading them is you don't have to pay them. I like our picks. I'm not saying I regret those picks, but like many of you were saying, I'm not big on quarterback in the first round.
So I had an observation. I was listening to Paul and he's talking about getting your house in order up front. I'm thinking, the house actually looks pretty good right now. And then it occurred to me, the one name we did not talk about at all tonight, and the one hole we did not fill, is Brandon Scherf. He's going to play this year.
Well, theoretically,
although if it's like every other year, he's going to play like 12 games because he's going to tear a pectoral muscle or mess up a rotator or something, right? He's going to give us 12 to 14 games. And then I think we've all pretty much agreed this is like his swan song in Washington, right? And I don't think the guy that fills that spot is on this roster right now.
I think Redunds could possibly fill that role. It depends. I guess the good news is we drafted 2 O-line guys. How that all shakes out, I don't know.
Charles, we don't know what's going to happen with Charles either.
Right. Yep.
True.
And Cornelius Lucas. I mean, if he's not playing left tackle, I don't know what his background is as far as playing guard, but we do have some guys.
If we pick up Morrissey as an undrafted free agent.
Right.
Another thing to consider is after the draft, there are going to be some players released, even some offensive linemen. So all is not lost. I think there's going to be some opportunities to sign a decent offensive guard to be a backup if Scherf does go down during the season.
So the other controversial pick, I think, because I don't think it's likely that Mond is there at that 3rd round pick. And Davis Mills has also been rumored to be possibly going. I mean, I've heard everything from late 1st round to early 2nd round. Nobody knows when the quarterbacks are going to go. But I guess the compelling question to me is if we have a idea that Mond's not going to be there in the 3rd or some other quarterback that we like, are we thinking about going there with that 2nd pick at 51? Is that something that's even on the table?
Well, if we get Walker Little at 82, nobody would go. Nobody at the end of the day on Friday night in our virtual draft party on bgobsession.com would be upset. That's 2 in a row, Mark. Would be upset if we ended up with Davis at 19, Mond at 51, Little at 74, right? We're still talking.
Well, go ahead.
We're still talking a very similar situation. Now we've got our starting left tackle, starting linebacker, and potentially the quarterback of the future. Now you could argue whether it's Mond, that's Mills, whatever. It could be Trask. Who cares? But now you've addressed 3 potential positions. It's a round earlier, but it's really not that different than what we drafted.
That's true. Because it's Washington, they're going to accuse us of a massive reach. But I mean, my thing at quarterback is it's not important where you pick them. It's important that you get the right guy.
It's not a reach until they don't succeed.
Has there been any talk about our having interest in him? The only thing I've seen in writing at all is that we've shown no interest at all, which of course could mean that we are interested, but
In Mond,
yeah.
we haven't been
Lord
listening to him.
knows.
There's other experts that are suggesting that he would be a good pick for us, but
Oh, I agreed. I'm wondering if the team has made any
that's
made any
not
noises.
Rivera's style.
Right.
We don't know.
If that should tell you anything, it should tell you that we probably need to pay attention. You know what I mean? Because Rivera, we didn't even know Alex Smith was out until the afternoon of the playoff game. But they had announced it that in practice that on Friday. Well, not announced it, but Heineke was taking first team reps with practice on Friday.
This has been one of the craziest off seasons I've ever seen. That should tell you, and I'm talking about quarterbacks. It all started in January and it just kept going. And I've never seen so many quarterbacks change teams and just before the draft itself. And now we're talking about 6 quarterbacks going in the first round, possibly. This is what I think may happen. But again, we don't know what the front office is thinking.
Well, if you can,
But
if you can stimulate your Reyes,
yeah, but
prediction
yeah.
here,
Okay, let me give it a shot.
Spidey sends it up, buddy.
But no guarantees. Anyway, what I think might happen is that Washington is going to say, you know, we have a lot of draft picks. Let's keep to most of what we have, but we're going to have to give one up. And they get the guy they want at 19. And let's say it is Davis. Maybe it's David Collins, but let's say it is a linebacker. Then we get to the second. We get to the end of the first night, end of the first round, and then we hear about a trade. Washington has traded their second round pick and their 2022 first round pick to move up to 31st, 32nd to take Kellen Mond. How would you feel about that? Because guys, this year, considering all the quarterbacks,
dunk,
you know, considering all and everything that's going to happen in this draft of quarterbacks and what happened in free agency and even pre-free agency, that's got to be on the table.
I would love it.
We're
I'm
gambling that's not
predicting
going to
that-
be a top 10 pick next year. I don't think it will be. But we've sat here before, and I say sat here. We've never done this
Yeah,
before.
you
but I know
have
a lot of us have sat
Fitzpatrick.
around before, and there's no way we're picking in the top 10 next year, and we're picked 5th.
If you
So-
find hypothetically speaking, you get Darisaw at 19, and then you make that move, you're not picking before 20. Fitzpatrick.
Let me throw out another name that where we could make a similar type move, and that is Kyle Trask, either Trask or Mond to do something like that sort of move. What do you think?
I'm not as sold on Trask. I know John likes him, but I'm not as sold on Trask.
Well, I think my considered answer, Ken, would be that if we were to make that move, that would tell me that the team is really, really into one of these guys. And that's a game changer. That means they're seeing something that they think works, that they have a plan for. I'm going to feel a whole lot better about Trask if they decide they want to trade up to get him at 31. They see something there. So I mean,
And they're going to build, and they're going to focus on him.
Yeah,
They have a plan in place at that point.
yeah. It's one thing if you happen to if you get to the third round and Mond is there and you take him, then that tells me that okay, they think he's got a chance. If they move up to 31 to get him in your scenario, they see something.
Yeah,
that should excite all of us.
I would continue to throw it out there. 50% of all of our opinions about who the quarterbacks that are going to make it in this draft are wrong. Just historically, and we're lucky if it's 50%.
Yep.
It's every year guys get slotted and ranked, and every year it's proven that list was wrong. So I'm just going to say, I'm not saying Trask is on the right side of the 50%. I don't know if he is or not, but I don't think there's any guarantees. And so we kind of have to go with what they think. I mean, that's what they're getting paid the big bucks for, is to be smarter than us.
And so much of it depends on the system they get into. If the offensive line is A, decent, B, can stay healthy, you know, there's about a million factors that go into whether a quarterback develops.
Well, and if the guy that drafted him is still the guy that's coaching
Yeah.
when they get in the game, right? I mean, how many times have we seen that happen?
Yeah. Sam.
I understand the benefit of jumping up to 31. It wasn't until you, Ken, and Derek explained that I really understood it. But I mean, I get it. But with Rivera having Kyle Allen, who he likes, he brought here, and then bringing in Heineke, who performed well in a game and a half, the jury's still out. And then Fitzmagic with his record. I mean, he doesn't have a winning record on any of his 8 prior teams, but he's exciting. with those three guys, I don't see us jumping up to 31 this year. I just don't. I see us drafting a quarterback, but I don't see us jumping up to into the first round to get one.
Well,
That's my
if
opinion.
If we don't jump into the first round, then
We might not get
Kyle
one.
Trask might be the guy in the second round.
He is a big corn-fed white boy.
He
So we
is.
got that going for us.
He's an
your-
accurate big corn
There
fed.
it
To
is.
your
Yeah.
point, Mark, and I talked about this on our QB podcast, is if you're going to do that, they have to have a plan in place. And if they have the plan in place, at the end of the day, I don't care what the name is. I'll support that quarterback with everything. If it's Trask, that's fine. My opinion, your plan better be to draft 3 offensive linemen this year. And one of them better be Brandon Sheriff's replacement.
So
Because
so
he's not going to
Trask,
be there.
Trask, Mills, Mond, Book, any one of those 4 could do well on this team. And that's
And
my
that's
point,
another
is you
name
can
that
have
nobody's
value.
talking about is Book.
Yeah, he fell off the face of the earth.
You know, I think if there's one thing this conversation proves, it's that once you get past the consensus top 4 quarterbacks, you're overdrafting. You're going to overdraft to get your guy.
Right. Because then you start to bring in value. Is it more valuable to get Mond at 31 or Mills at 51?
Assuming Mills
Because
is still
what's
there
going to
at
take to
51.
get to 31? You're paying more. And where's your value benefit?
At 31, you're getting a guy that eventually you can use the 5th-year option as well, because he's selected in the first round. Yeah,
Right.
I
Another
know
big
that's not a
tool,
big
Ken.
factor, but it might be something they're thinking about.
Well, there is a fact. If and that's what Tom and I talked about. That is a huge factor, because if you can get that 5th year of control, I hate to use that word, but control, that changes the dynamic of your quarterback. Because year 1, he's a project guy, just like Lance. He's a project guy. He's not going to play next year, not meaningful. If everything goes, according to plan. Year 2 is when he starts to develop, and then you've got a 3-year window where he's ascending, and you're paying your D line, and you're re-signing Terry McLaurin, and you're re-signing Cameron Curl, and you're re-signing all of these young guys. So you can continue to kick, push that ball further and further down the road. That extra year matters if you're talking about an open window at a chance of a potential championship. If you lose that, then you've got a 2-year window, and that changes the whole dynamic of it. It might not seem like a big deal, but then you're talking about bringing in free agents because they have confidence in your quarterback. You're talking about developing your offensive line. One of the most untalked about things this offseason is the fact that we locked up Chase Rouillet. And people don't look at it that it's significant, but now you have your center well past 30, right? He's going to be handing the ball off to the entirety of the application process of your quarterback. And who's going to be on his right? Who's going to be on his left? Who's going to be your tackles? Because if you don't take a tackle in the first round, you have to pay your quarterback. So are you going to pay your quarterback and your left tackle and your right tackle to premium contracts in the same contract year? It all matters. That 5th year makes a big deal. It's a massive part of planning the future of your team.
I like what Paul said earlier, is that you've got to build out your team before you get your franchise quarterback. That's always been true. It really is. And I can't argue that point whatsoever. So that pushes it to next year. And
I'll argue it a little bit.
Yeah, and assuming that we have another good season, win the NFC East, go 9-8, maybe 10-7. Well, we're going to be picking around 20th, obviously, maybe 22nd or 23rd with a playoff win, or actually, I think it's 24th. So obviously, we're not going to have a top pick again. But if we build out more this year, next year, assuming that we pick close to where we are this year, we're really going to have to pay through the nose to get a quarterback next year. That's
I don't really buy that argument. All due respect to Paul. You get a quarterback when you can get a quarterback that you believe in. It doesn't matter. I mean, we defended a one-legged Alex Smith last season and he survived. So whoever is under center, and we know he's probably, no matter who it is, he's probably not going to be under center this year, barring injury. I think that's overblown. The whole, we have to build around, and then get our quarterback. You get a quarterback whenever the hell you can get a quarterback. If you see one that you believe in and you can get them without selling the farm, then you go get them. And I don't care if you have an O line or you don't have an O line. That's just my opinion.
But I think you and Paul are making the same argument. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to say that both of those things are true. You do want to keep building out. So if you're fortunate and you stumble into your franchise quarterback in the draft, you want to have something to plug him in. The problem is goes back to why I said I'm drafting a quarterback every year. So I've already got my development year is happening. When I'm drafting another one next year in the 3rd or 4th round or the 5th round or the 2nd, if I see someone I like, because that way I have my whole Super Bowl team ready. And then I go get my rookie quarterback and spend 2 years training him up. I don't want to do that. I want to have a guy who's been on board a year or two every year.
So-
remember Kerry Conklin and Stan Humphreys, and we drafted quarterbacks in the mid and late rounds all through the glory years. So we weren't plugging in a raw rookie. We never plugged in a rookie. We plugged in a guy we took a year or two ago who had been developing. So that's just another angle to the quarterback thing. We're not going to be drafting in the top 10 anytime soon, or the top 3 to get one of these
Hopefully.
quarterbacks. I mean, we have to assume we're not, because we're building out a pretty solid team. So we're going to be plugging in free agent quarterbacks and veterans unless we're developing somebody behind the scenes every year.
Mark, Paul, or anyone, I got to ask you this question, because since we're talking about quarterbacks and when they're being drafted, everything is going to be dictated from what the 49ers did, in my opinion. So when we look at these quarterbacks, in my opinion, Trey Lance shouldn't even be a first rounder. That's just my opinion. But I'm not a GM. I'm not a coach. But the 49ers jumped up to number 3, not for a position, for a specific player. And when they did so, I think Mac Jones or Fields was ranked higher, and now Fields has dropped. But don't you guys agree that they went up to get a player, not a position? So if so, and since that dictates what's going to happen after 3, who did they jump up to get? Because it's a person.
I don't think you go to the 3rd spot in the draft to get anybody other than a quarterback this year.
Right, but who is it?
Today they said it's either going to be Mac Jones or Trey Lance.
I think everybody agrees on that.
No, it's Fields. I don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people
Derek's
say,
just being contrary now.
No, I'm not. I've said that from day one.
Well, Tom, to answer your question, then the Niners know who they're taking. They traded up to 3 to take a guy.
they traded up to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
There's
No,
one
of course we
name.
don't
There's
know.
one name they have circled in bold on on their board.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, and
know
when you
who they're
consider that
taking.
everybody pretty much agrees on who 1 and 2 are going to be,
correct.
the
So it's either-
49ers absolutely know who their guy is.
Right.
And it's either
I think
gonna
it's
be
Fields.
Lance, or Jones. And is who's it for again, Derek?
Atlanta.
So Atlanta could also go quarterback. So it could be quarterback for the first 4. We know it's going to be quarterback for the first 3. My point is that if it's, of course, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, number 1 and number 2. If it ends up being Fields and Lance, then maybe somebody like Mac Jones is going to drop. I don't know. My point is that I find it interesting that they went all the way up to 3, knowing that they're not going to get Zach Wilson, knowing that they're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. And I wouldn't mortgage my whole future on one of the other 3.
No, they love somebody. They went up there to get Mond. Clearly.
Kyle Trask.
That would be a Kyle Shanahan move.
You know,
right there.
Tom, you just I'm thinking about what you were just saying. San Francisco may be doing exactly what I just said you can't do. and that they have built a pretty solid team. They think they're a Super Bowl contender. They are betting the farm now on bringing in a guy, but he's going to be a raw rookie, right? After they're going to plug Trey Lance in or Fields in and expect to be a contender this year or next. That's a
Well,
hell of a
after-
gamble because they gave up a lot of capital.
Mike, after what we did to them last year, do you really see them as a Super Bowl contender?
Well, they didn't have their quarterback. What was the
But
name?
one-
What was the name of the guy we played that day?
Collins.
And they had a
Exactly.
number of injuries, especially.
Mullins. It was
they
Nick
were-
Mullins.
Mullins. Sorry, yeah,
beat,
Mullins.
They were beat all the hell up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we win that game if we're playing Jimmy Garoppolo, who we haven't even talked about. I think that guy's a pretty good quarterback.
He is, but I don't beyond the
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah, but he's got Jordan Reed syndrome. He can't play a whole season.
Well, they're making a big gamble here because they
So-
are in a
so-
Super Bowl window, right? Isn't San Francisco? You put Tom Brady on that team, that's a Super Bowl.
You
very
pay
serious Super Bowl contender.
you pay Trent Williams the most lucrative contract for the left tackle in the history of the NFL. He's 30 plus. Yeah, they're buying into a Super Bowl at that point.
They are.
Not to rewind, but I think John and Paul were speaking the same language. You were just doing it in a different way. Paul is saying that we need to set up our team with our long-term quarterback as part of the future, but we need to build around it. And John is saying we need to find the guy, but you can do both at the same time. And that's where I think the guy like Mills and Mond and Trask fall into it. Not
or both.
spending 19 on a quarterback allows you to continue to develop that guy and get somebody who doesn't have to start this year, not because of the media or because of us keyboard GMs or anything else, but because you're adding starters in the first 2 rounds of the draft. If you look at the big top teams that have been established in the NFL and have been consistently good, they added their quarterback. They had decent quarterback play, but they had a good team. Russell Wilson went to Seattle the year they paid Matt Flynn a ton of money. And they were a good football team. That defense was legit. Russell Wilson stepped in, was really good quarterback in a really good system. You look at Tom Brady. Bledsoe was their quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, they were an 11-5 team. They were not a 3-13 team picking in the top half of the draft. So everybody talks about him being a 6th-round quarterback. He's a 6th-round quarterback to walk into a playoff team. Mahomes went to Kansas City. Alex Smith was 12-4. Then he went 11-5, got traded away.
Well,
Aaron
all
Rodgers
three-
went to Green Bay. And
all of those situations, other than Aaron Rodgers, all of those situations, I think, benefited from not firing their head coach every 2 years like Washington does.
and none of those picks were
So
1-1.
I think that's part of it too, is not just having the surrounding cast, but having the same OC, having the same system, having the same head coach, I think is a big part of it too. And that's one good thing. I think we're not going to have the head coach carousel unless Rivera opts out at some point. I think he'll be around a while.
And none of those picks were 1-1. None of those picks are picking a quarterback top 10. I'm not saying find a guy in the 6th round because Tom Brady just comes around every year. What I'm saying is the team was there. Same thing with Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger. They had Tommy Maddox. Roethlisberger fell to him. They picked him up. He walked in there. He has 2 rings.
It can happen. Lightning can strike.
We all agree that we liked our draft. Derek, you said that we've got 4 starters from our draft. Who are the 4?
Well, Davis is starting.
Walker Little's a starter. Redunce is a starter because I think he's playing. John Davis is a starter. I guess I should have said 3.5 because I think Fehoko and Poljan can push for time. And I don't know that Poljan pushes Thomas for time, but he pushes the opposite side for time. Because I think Reyes is really raw. The guy's never even caught an actual catch, in any sort of a organized football game.
I don't think he's ever put pads on. I can't wait to see the kid in uniform.
Yeah, me too.
So to
So we
expect
must-
him to
we
walk
must-
into camp and be a contributor is
Yeah,
a little
no.
bit.
And Stevenson's not a starter, but if they pick him up, he's absolutely going to platoon.
Yeah.
Correct. He will play. And Fajoko's gonna play too, they will find
Mhm.
packages to put him in there.
And then I wonder if Mon doesn't push to get some playing time at the end of the year.
Not in
Depends on-
January when we're fighting for home field advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Come on.
who's to say what's going to happen?
If we're,
I don't
if
know.
we're
I
7
think-
and, yeah, if we're 5 and 10, then yeah, he plays.
Has Fitzmagic played a full season in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
I'm not being facetious, but I
know
don't,
he has it.
Yes, he has.
I believe he has with the Jets.
Yeah.
There was 1 year with the Jets, he went 10-6.
but I don't, I
1
guess the
year.
point is he's not known for being either he'll implode and pull a Rex on us and throw 3 picks in one game and get pulled, or he'll get dinged up. I think he's had that history. So I'm just saying that no matter who the backup is, there's a good chance that he might.
TH4 is ready and willing.
Yeah, he's going to be really exciting. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to tune in to see what Fitz Tragic or Fitz Magic is going to do, because he's going to be very, very exciting. Knowing we need to get a quarterback, the quarterback is going to be behind the guys that we have because he's going to learn from them. I'm not saying that whatever quarterback we draft this year is going to be even starting next year. We could have Fitzmagic for 2 years, or we could have Heineke for 2 or 3. Who knows? To Paul's point, all we got to do, we got to be the Gibbs guy. We got to focus on the line and protect the quarterback wherever the quarterback is.
Amen.
Bob, you're talking way too much.
Hey man, I've actually said a good little bit.
Well, Bob, I think it was you. I love your running back pick.
Ramondre Stevenson.
Wasn't it you?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, I thought it was.
That was me. No, it's Paul.
I
that's
like him,
talking way
man.
Too much.
I've been mocking
245.
him a lot lately.
Like always, Paul is talking way too much.
So what's going on Thursday night, guys?
Virtual draft party. Hey, by the way, I do not have an inventory, so I will be all locked and loaded at about 8:15.
Are we going to record that?
No,
Oh, God, no.
Doggone it.
You know,
we could, but we're
And
not gonna.
you all need to enter the
I will.
draft pool on BGO.
Did you just say bagoat?
I did. You know why I did? Because honestly, that's what my wife calls it. And I hear it so often, I always have to correct her.
but
So-
I like that. The
I need to
bagoat.
get a BGO flag. I like those flags behind Bob and John.
Yeah, we'll put those up on eBay sometime.
eBay. Bagoat.
I like those.
A couple names I just wanted to throw out late. We've talked about him a little bit. Tamarion Terry. I have not heard Ken ever.
Terry
I've never
Terry.
asked Ken about it. I like Tamarion Terry and I like Brandon Smith out of Iowa. You know what's really weird is Mark is looking straight at Ken on my screen. It was really freaky.
I was surprised you didn't get up on the table for him in the 7th round because he was sitting there.
I took wide receiver in the 5th. I can't do it. I can't double or triple up. Like Ken said, we're getting crowded. That receiver group's getting really crowded, and especially depends on what happens with Harmon. So I like Terry. I like what he could bring as a dynamic playmaker, but we have dynamic playmakers. You know what I mean? In a special teamer, I don't know where he would bring that. Brandon Smith's kind of a goal line threat, fight for the ball guy. But again, if Fajoko can bring both of those, then you kind of lean towards that. But if we ended up with any 3 of those guys, I'd be happy. Any one of the 3.
By the way, we would be remiss if I didn't mention, did Derek tell the panel, all of you guys, what he was going to do if Darisaw is there at 19 and we pick him?
No, I didn't.
If he's there,
I would
somebody's got to
dance.
film this, but he's going to run around his neighborhood naked.
With my pants down. Yeah, that would make me excited. I don't think
So-
he's there. I just don't think it happened.
I don't either.
That guy's our left.
And I'm
He's
not saying
left
I want
tackle
to
for
see
the
it.
next 12 years
but-
if he's there.
Do you guys honestly think that, like in theory, I believe we have 8 picks currently?
Yes.
Yeah.
If we kept all 8 of those picks, do you think in theory that this year, given our roster and given what we already have on the team, and given that we're kind of on the upswing, do you think all those guys legitimately make the team that we draft this year?
No.
I think in the 7th round, you probably have at least one of the guys that'll go to the practice squad, if not both of them.
Mhm.
The first 5 rounds, yeah, they're probably going to make the roster.
But the way I would answer that question, Paul, is I can say, so traditionally, for the most part, no, the odds are against the guys in the 6th or 7th round. However, I think most of us would agree with what Kyle Smith or whoever you want to give the credit to in recent years. I don't know if it was Gruden, but we were hitting the ball out of the park in all the rounds and keeping guys even late. And I'm not even using Cam Curl as an example. I'm talking about years prior to Cam Curl, like last year. We were still hitting some dingers in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Wouldn't you guys agree? We've had starters, or we've had contributors in multiple rounds.
Yeah, Jimmy Moreland is a good example. But I do want to go back to, I think about 2008, 2009. There's a player that we drafted in the 7th round. And for the first 3 or 4 games of that season as a rookie, he looked like he was a first rounder. Then all of a sudden he started to fade. And then he was off the team the following year. You know who I'm talking about? Chris Horton, the dreaded Predator. Yep. He looked like he was going to be around for a long, long time. But he fell off the earth quickly. And by the next year, it was all over.
So one thing I think we got to remember that I haven't heard anyone mention is, you know, this is a different group making the call this year. We have 2 new GMs or whatever their titles are,
Right,
co-GMs, whatever you want to call them,
Right.
Hernian and Mayhew, and the anointed one is, you know, has moved on, Kyle Smith, who,
Even though if you look at his last couple,
yeah, I'm not saying he was, I'm just saying that was the rep, you know.
that
I
was a
think
Kyle Smith guy.
everyone was
Come
a
on.
flutter about losing him and we would never recover from that. But we don't really know. And I don't think looking at their history with Mayhew and Herney, we don't really know much about how what their mindset is. So it's going to be interesting how that plays. And I don't know how much of the scouting department actually turned over during that time period, if any of it, but maybe they went with the board as it was set, you know, as they were coming in kind of, but I think that's kind of the wild card in this.
Well, let's face it, the better your roster is, the harder it is to make it as a draftee. Hopefully we're not keeping all 8 guys, right? We're hopefully maybe they just can't quite get on this roster at this point.
Because we got too much. So to wrap things up, because I'm falling asleep and I'm exhausted, I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna go one by one. Let's pick our favorite pick in this draft. It doesn't have to be your pick. It doesn't have to be a value. It could just be like, I really like that guy. But I'm gonna go one by one. I'm gonna start with Paul because he talks way too much and I want to shut him up.
Can you put our picks up on the screen, my friend?
Yep, I'm going to right now. Let me launch this. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and launch BGO.
While you're
So
doing
everybody
that,
can
I want to say something real quick about Samus Reyes. When I talked about him that night as being a 7th round selection, I didn't know that he was a part of the international program and that he could be signed right away as a free agent. So it was very fortunate that Washington could do that. And now we'll
Sorry,
see.
Ken. You called your shot to left field. You hit it dead center. It's still a freaking home run. Don't worry about it.
Duly noted.
Nobody had him on their radar until you said something, and then it was like, no, I'm not even kidding. As soon as it got announced, I texted John. I said, "Well, Ken called that one." He had no idea what I was talking about. So anyway,
I remember him bringing it up.
Tom, favorite pick of the draft. If you say anything other than Kellen Mond, you're lying.
Are you talking? I'm starting. I thought you said you were starting with Paul.
You're in you're in the top left. It's just,
So
like writing a paragraph.
So it's easy for me to say Kellen Mond, but arguably, I want a quarterback, and I don't want one in the first round. So I would be happy with Mills or Book or Mond or even Trask. So I really I don't know which to.
You like the fact that we got a quarterback that we could potentially groom for the future. We didn't spend the first round pick on it.
Right. But so my favorite picks are any one of the first two. I love either one of those. So if I have to pick one, I really wanted JOK, and I love the fact that Davis is bigger. So I'll pick that one. I love the fact that we got linebacker because we've got a stout defense. I had a plumber that I hired to help me with doing some water purification this week. And I said, hey, you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Who are you shooting for? And he goes, oh, shoot, I don't even know where our pick is. And I said, well, I'm hoping
Come
we
to
get
tune
a
in to
stud.
BG Obsession on YouTube and you can find out.
Yep. I said, well, we're at 19. And he goes, man, you haven't been that low in years. So I said, we're at 19 and I'm hoping we get a linebacker. Like, I would really love to get Jeremiah out of Notre Dame. And he goes, man, your defense is already brutal. You don't need a freaking linebacker. And I said, actually, we could use another linebacker. That's one of our needs. But he goes, man, if you get a stud linebacker in the first round, you guys are going to be even scarier. So I love the fact that our defense is going to be even scarier with Davis. So that's my pick.
Jamin Davis. John, you're up.
Well, I love the fact that we double down on O-line, but I gotta go with Walker Little because I just think that guy's a beast, and I think he's just been off the radar, and that's why he's, I don't know if he'll be available there, but I love that, and I love that we did it even though we'd already drafted a guy who might be able to play tackle with the second pick, but I would have to say Walker Little.
Ken, favorite pick?
In this group that we see right here,
Yep.
they all took mine.
You can agree.
Yeah, you can agree.
No, I'm going to be a homer here and go
Tony Pauljon.
Tony Poljan is tight end. Not just because he went to UVA. I think there is potential there. I think our tight ends coach can do good things with him. He's a very good blocker. He has the size at 6'7", 265. And I think if we do pick him in the 7th round, I think he makes the team.
Mark, you're up. Favorite pick?
Well, it's easy for me because anybody who tuned into earlier podcasts knows that I've been standing on the table to get linebackers. The idea of plugging a Mr. Davis into the middle of this defense makes me very happy. But as far as the guy that I would look forward to seeing most in the first preseason game, even, that would be Mr. Fehoko. Really curious to see him posting up against safeties. So yeah, that would be the guy I'd be watching.
Bob?
I think the best pick in this draft in terms of, of value is probably Walker Little. The guy arguably in any other year would be a first round tackle. Probably not top 10, but you're talking a legitimate first round tackle of the ilk of a Christian Darrisaw, right? I mean, if he's fully recovered and can play, that's the question. Is he fully recovered? How's the knee, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm with Mark too, man. I absolutely want to see Fehoko play. The guy's just I don't know. There's just something crazy about him. So there you go.
Paul?
I'm going to say our first pick, linebacker, Jamin Davis. If you think of it from a year-by-year standpoint, going into 2021, I think that linebacker is probably our most crucial position on our roster in terms of needing a starter to fill a gaping hole. Again, on a year-by-year basis, for instance, if you look at tackle, we can roll with Lucas, we can roll with Moses for another year and develop and groom someone behind them. But if we're talking about potentially trying to win the division this year and, hopefully win a game in the playoffs, you need to fill positions where you have a gaping hole. And to me, linebacker is the most glaring one. So Jamin Davis.
So we have 2 for Davis, right? 2 for Fehoko. 2 for Little. Is that right? Is my count right?
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm the tiebreaker. Y'all are gonna make me the tiebreaker.
And
I'm going
Ken-
Stevenson. No, I'm kidding.
Ken had Poljan too, got a vote.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I have to go of this pick of this draft. I have to go for Hoko. 5th round pick, wide receiver, contribute. That would probably be my favorite pick because as Washington football fans, the Anthony Armstrongs of the world make us all excited and make us want to pay attention to preseason.
John, I wanted to ask you a question. When you were up with the first pick, if Zaven Collins or Owusu Koromora had been there, which one of would you have picked one of those two? And if so, which one?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping they wouldn't be. Because I talked to Mark earlier today and I was kind of going back and forth. I really like Collins, and I think Collins could be one of those guys that, like, I know they're talking, the latest thing, as you're aware, is that he's gained a bunch of weight. He doesn't really want to be a linebacker. He wants to be a pass rusher because the pay scale's up a couple notches. And I don't know that I believe that. I think he's going to be a beast, but he's a totally different guy from JOK, who's only 216 pounds, about 50 pounds lighter and 6'2". I think I probably would have gone JOK just because the idea of someone that athletic and explosive and able to move from side to side the way that he can, we haven't had that. I don't know when the last time we had a linebacker that could do what he can do. The tackling worries me a little bit just because I don't think he's the best tackler in the world, but I'm not sure it really matters as disruptive as he would be. So I would probably go with JOK I just think his upside is through the roof, potentially.
Isn't it interesting that in this draft, linebackers went 16 through 19, 16, 17, 18, 19?
Yeah, and that's actually, I think that's the way it goes a lot of times in drafts. You see a team grab a
A
guy,
run. You
and
get
then
a run.
and you'll see a run on him. The other thing I really liked about JOK is the guy can blitz. Like, he would be the threat of sending him after the quarterback with all the other threats that we have on the D line. I think that could be a game changer. And
Would you be more comfortable with him if he gained, say, 10 to 15 pounds?
yeah, I mean, I think
of muscle. Yeah.
I think he probably will. I mean, I think
Have you seen that guy? He is shredded. I don't know where you can put it.
Be a nice problem to
I'm-
have picking between those two
I-
guys.
I'm gonna go a different direction though. I actually don't know if I want him putting 10 pounds of muscle on. That guy is what he is. He can cover a tight end. He can also cover a slot receiver and a running back. If you're gonna use him, use him. Kind of like a quarterback. If you draft a quarterback, I'm not gonna ask my quarterback to add 12 pounds, 15 pounds of muscle just so he can get sacked in the pocket and not hurt as much. I'm gonna draft a tackle. I'm gonna let my quarterback be my quarterback. Same thing with that guy. I want his athleticism, his speed, his skill to be what I put him in position to excel at, and I work around that because you don't find that kind of a player very often. The problem is there's a little bit of redundancy because you have Collins who can be a box safety, Curl can play on the line, and then Reeves can be your deep guy. So now you've got 3 guys that fit one role and then one guy that's kind of on his own. So that's where I would wonder where you would draft a linebacker and where it would come down to with that. And where the debate would be between JOK, Collins, and Davis.
I mean, I guess the good news is, regardless of who they grab there, assuming we go linebacker with that first pick, we've got 2 former linebackers coaching them up, so I think we can, goes back to what you were saying earlier about scheming it to take advantage of whatever they do well. I feel pretty confident that we're gonna be able to figure that out.
So one final note as we sign off, because I need to take my happy ass to bed. The Washington football team is still top 10 in cap space available. Do you spend it or carry it over?
Well, I don't think we're not done in free agency.
True.
You know, there's going to be a lot of free agency that's going to be post draft.
Post draft.
So if we feel like if we didn't get the tight end or running back we want, there's going to be guys that are going to be available.
As of now, we have roughly $18.4 million in cap space available. You can do a lot with that, especially with depth.
There's another note for you. Apparently, 3 hours ago, it was reported that Deron Payne's 5th year was exercised by the team.
Mm-hmm. No brainer of all no brainers.
Yeah, absolutely, but still.
Well, right behind Allen and Sweat and Young and all the other defense players.
So I don't, I don't think you have to go either direction, Derek. I don't think you have to spend it. I don't think you have to save it. I think you do what you need to do at this point in time.
Yeah.
Odds are there's going to be more next year. The cap's going to go up next year. I mean, this is the first time in how long it's gone down. It's going back up. We know
And
that.
you roll this.
Yeah, it will go up next year, but the following year, 2023, with all the new TV deals that are coming out that have already been announced, that's when it's going to explode, and it's going to be $240 million at a minimum. Some reports say up to 280 million. I mean, it's going to explode.
To Ken's point, when you said that this is the craziest offseason, my only not a rebuttal, but my only addition to that is, yeah, it's a crazy offseason, but the good thing about it, knock on wood, is that this was less crazy for us than last year because everything was brand new. Completely new coaching staff, name change, everything up and very turmoil, a lot of turmoil. So I think that things are a little calmer for our team this offseason, even though there's been a lot of quarterback changeover
And turmoil elsewhere. Well, thank you very much, fellas. It's been a
real.
pleasure.
You guys
I think
are
it's time to
good.
sign off. And Thursday night, if anybody's listening to this and you gotta want to jump onto the BGO virtual draft party, we're going to get together. Similar style to this, but there's probably going to be a lot more windows. We can follow it along, have some fun, a couple of adult beverages if you choose, and evaluate things how they break down.
We had a great draft tonight.
Yep.
Good job, guys.
A lot of pressure on the team to live up to what we did tonight.
Absolutely.
All right,
night,
gents.
fellas.
All right.